Welcome in and come on down. ADPs are on the board, and it's time to play high or low. Who is a draft day steal and who is costing way too much? Let's find out this week on From the Forum. All right. Hello. Happy Friday to all my friends. There is a better looking face in the pole position tonight. I am your new host for 1 week, Joe Frick. Tyler Bradley is celebrating his 10th anniversary, so happy anniversary to the misses and misses. We have quite the crew with us tonight. We will allow them to introduce ourselves. We'll have a fourth secret guest joining us here in a little bit, but a lot to talk about. It is preseason week 2, and I am so thrilled that football is back. And also these two guys that are here with us tonight, missing them all week after hanging with them at the Fantasy Football Expo this past week in Canton. So, gentlemen, so good to see you. How are we doing tonight?
I'm doing great. We did get a chance to spend some time in Canton at the Fantasy Football Expo. It was great getting a chance to meet and talk with you a bunch. I saw Ben, and partly it was hard to miss with the rabbit ears. It was a great time in Canton. But looking forward to talking tonight about ADP.
Oh, yeah. All right.
And obviously I'm Ben. I'm the rabbit dad. As Rick mentioned before, the rabbit ears make me stick out. It's not just a gimmick, it's a lifestyle. I have pet rabbits and as well as that, I love fantasy football and all things football in general. And I absolutely love going to Canton and meeting everybody, both you guys and everybody I've met over the last 3 years I've gone to the expo. It's one of the greatest times of the year, right up there with our own personal Minnesota State Fair, but that's a story for another time. But
yeah, and I guess I was rude. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Rick Briswalis. I do a couple podcasts on the sports affiliation. One that focused on charity leagues, charity events. Had a lot of fun doing that. And then Thursday nights, I do Thursday Check Down, where we do more of a normal fantasy football show, talking about players to draft, players to start, players to sit, and all the normal stuff that you would talk about to get you ready for your fantasy football league. So that's me.
Absolutely. So we got Tyler. Even though he couldn't be with us tonight, he is with us in spirit and on Facebook. He's loving the crew that we have here tonight. It's definitely heavy hitters as we get into the season. But gentlemen, there's been a lot of major news that is either broke this week or things that are kind of questions that people have in the fantasy community. The biggest one that we've seen so far, Rashee Rice. So we found out this week that his hearing is going to be pushed until after the season starts. He's kind of had this 4th round, 5th round kind of draft stock to him at this point. How do y'all see him now with this kind of murkiness of the news? There's been talk of maybe this was going to be a half-season suspension or more. So is this a green light for y'all to draft him, or are we going to just say, hey, I want no part of this? Rick, I'll start with you. Do you have any strong feelings about that?
Well, as someone who likes the Chiefs offense and certainly likes Patrick Mahomes, Rice being his number 1 wide receiver, but that was with the expectation that whatever penalty that was going to happen next year. This year, and this year in the middle, maybe the end of the season, that makes me want to put my brakes on him and let someone else take that chance. There's plenty of other wide receivers. I'll go ahead and pass on him at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like the chat agrees with you, which, I mean, why is there a surprise there? So we got Disco, Big Draft Energy, Red Lights, Stop Sign, giving the shout out saying, hey, Rick, hey, Joe, hey, Rabbit Dad, how we living tonight? We also got Kevin in the chat saying that he's more worried about Rashee in redraft rather than in Dynasty.
Sure.
But, yeah, there's a lot of concerns there. I was kind of banking on the whole if he's out for the first couple of games, so be it, and then we'll deal with it later. I feel like I'm good enough at fantasy football to make this happen. But Ben, do you feel like, is he taking off the board for you, or do you think this is something you'll carry forward and just say, like whatever, we'll make it work?
I mean, for me, really, things haven't really changed a whole lot. The only real uh, thing that's changed at all is when this suspension comes down. I fully expect it's going to happen at some point this year. Now, whether that happens right away is probably not going to be the case. So I'm expecting, like initially I was thinking like an 8-game suspension. Maybe he'd appeal it to like 6 games, whatever.
Sure.
So we're talking about sometime like October, into November that maybe he's not available. So like, yeah, you want to get a guy who's like, I've been famously high on since before he got drafted. I wanted to see him get into the right position, the right spot, and he did with the Chiefs. The offense hasn't been the same offense it was before he got there. But at the same time, I mean, long term, there's no change on it whatsoever. You're just going to have a little bit of a space there, a few weeks, obviously, this season where you're not going to have him available. But at the same time, it's like, do you want to have that early season advantage with a guy like Rice who can put up those kind of numbers and then have to deal with something after that where you don't have him? It's kind of like, it's like it hasn't really changed the ADP spot on me for him, my love for him and whatnot. But it's something we have to be aware of going forward for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
In redraft, the challenge with him is much like with Brandon Ayuk. He's out probably for the first 6 weeks of the season, and if it takes him a little bit more time to actually get into game shape and get into game performance, it's pretty tough to have. One, it's nice to have that player coming in, especially if you're heading towards playoffs. But in the Rice case, though, you don't know if that's going to be the middle of the season. You don't know if that's going to be towards the end. And that's going to be pretty tough, especially, as you're getting into the games that are more important.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I want to point out coming in from the chat, hot off the press from Disco. So saying that the article came out, they were leaning towards a 10-game suspension. The NFLPA actually said, hey, there is no precedent for anything like this. There's no way that you can do that. So that's like really big news. But even bigger news, our special guest for the night showing up with 15 minutes notice, fresh off the street. We got my boy, Go Yachty, in the chat, the commissioner of the Napkin League, my boy from the Fantasy Football Advice Network. Go Yachty, how we doing, my king? Welcome to the show.
Good. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me. What did I miss?
Not a whole lot. So we'll just throw the question right at you. Are you in or you out on Rashid Rice with the new news that we've learned this week that the hearing isn't until the season starts?
I still want to be in. It comes down to the cost. If I'm late 4th, maybe early 5th, I think I'm going for it. I'm hopeful that it's only 4 to 6 games, but if it goes beyond that, I'm just throwing my money away for maybe a playoff run.
Yeah, hear that for sure. So the fan love is just coming in hot. So we got Pete Nova, absolute king of the defenses, giving the shout out to Ben. So got a lot of love in the chat. We appreciate you jumping in. If you're on the stream on YouTube or wherever else, hit the like button, get the subscribe going so you don't miss shows like this. We are here every Friday night, but let's keep this rolling. So we had the Rashid Rice news about, hey, like we had this suspension that's looming. Now on the flip side of that, you have Quinshon Judkins. All of the charges have been dropped. He's been moving entirely off boards for people. But is it time to bump him back up? Do y'all feel like it's something that's worth it? We'll go reverse order this time. So, Ben, we'll start with you. How are you feeling about Quinshon Judkins in Cleveland?
I mean, obviously, the fact that the charges were dropped is significant. It gives fantasy managers who took a chance on him earlier in their dynasty drafts or in their early redraft drafts a little bit of they could take a breath. You could look at it and be like, all right, so it looks like he's probably going to be there. Now the only biggest hurdle that we know of at this point is when that contract is going to get signed. So when is he going to get in there? When is he going to start working with the team? And sure, there's always the possibility that later on down the road, something could turn up. Maybe the NFL is going to be like, you know what? Don't like this. Don't do that. So we're going to
Right.
punish you. And then that's that happens. So I still like Judkins, but there's still there's that cloud hanging over my long ears that just says do I want to? Do I? I'm sorry, my rabbit's acting up at the same time I'm trying to talk to you guys, but there's still a little bit of pause there. But at the same time, I feel like Judkins, I was high on him coming into the draft. I was high on his landing space. It's just that cloud is just going to hang over our heads up until something goes down. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue to be in on Judkins at about where he's going now since his ADP dropped significantly.
Yeah. So, Rick, I just want you to know that Pete also a huge fan of yours as well. So don't think that you went without the fan love as well. But my question for y'all, it's really having a rookie come in. So for Go Yachty, for Rick, we have this rookie that's missed a significant part of training camp because he hadn't signed. He hasn't really been a part of it. Does that impact your willingness to take maybe a Jerome Ford in a later round? I know that there was a lot with Dylan Sampson of he's seen the first team reps in the last 2 days. Has Judkins already been passed and it's an uphill battle for him? Or is it hey, no, you're good. You have the overall rating that's higher in Madden, so you're going to get the start.
I mean, for me, I wasn't really super high on Judkins coming in, so when he dropped out, it just made my Dylan Sampson shares more expensive. I'm still going to take a few shots at him now that his ADP is depressed, because you got to remember your priors. Sure, he missed a little bit of camp, but if he is the talent that you think he is, he's going to excel. So it's not a huge competition ahead of him. Jerome Ford is kind of a plotter. He'll get you 20 carries for 80 yards, great. But if he doesn't get in the end zone, it's not worth it to draft him. So I'm kind of out on Ford. I like Sampson a little bit better.
Yeah. What about for you, Rick?
Yeah, that's and Sampson's an interesting point in this because, of course, people, I'll take a step back. Judkins, was coming out at the same time as Henderson. There was a lot of, back and forth on who was the better prospect. And, again, I think Judkins is a super talent, and, he's got the size and speed that you want to have, especially in a bell cow back. So saying all that, I know a number of us were then jumping on Dylan Sampson, especially when it looked like, Judkins wasn't going to be available, at least for the first part of the season. Now it kind of makes things a little bit more uncomfortable if you're trying to make a decision based on Judkins, Sampson, or some other running back, especially if you're building out for a young team. The other thing, and it was interesting that just today the news was that Isaiah Bond was signed by the same Cleveland Browns, and so you almost wonder what sort of environment they're building there in Cleveland with all these players that have had questions about their behavior in the very recent past.
Yeah.
So, but that I thought that was the more interesting news. I think I would still be going after Judkins. It's just a little later in the draft, and now those people that did take him early, they're probably feeling pretty good that they're getting their investment.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that I saw, it's people on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days, they always post interesting things who's going to stop this offense? Who's going to do this? And so they had a picture of the offense from the Cleveland Browns, and it was who's going to stop this offense? And it was an arrest warrant. And I thought that was and so just so you know, Goyati, Pete said he's got a lot of love for you too. If you guys don't know about Pete, like I said, super cool dude. He is a DST guru, does stuff with the Fantasy Face-Off. So make sure you find him on X across platforms all over. I know he's in them Reddit streets as well. So make sure you show him some love. We got Albert, big friend of the show. Always a pleasure, my guy. Good to see you. And we also got some questions in the chat. So we're just going to make a little note here. James Cook got his money, probably more than he should have, but good for James Cook. His older brother might be a little bit jealous. But we have another friend of the show. He's actually going to be on in a couple weeks. We got the Mad Dog in the house. He said, "What's up? Could we see Judkins get suspended in season similar to Zeke? So even though the charges have been dropped, are y'all expecting any ramifications from the NFL, yay or nay?" And I'll move it so we can get y'all's pretty faces back on the screen.
I actually don't expect them. Again, of course, if he had the charges, then the league and you would think even the Browns would come down hard on him. The fact it's been cleared, I still think that unless there's something else we don't know about,
Sure.
I think that we're going to see him sign a contract pretty soon and race right into camp to. At least get somewhat of a rookie season. Missing so much of, the start of your rookie year, that makes it really tough for you to be successful. So if he's smart and the team's smart, they've got a major investment in the guy. So I think that, everyone's going to be trying to move him out onto the field as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Anybody else? Is there any of y'all like Ben, Goyati, do you think that he does get suspended? I'm with Rick here. I don't think that I see it. But I don't think there's any precedent to say that he would. But y'all have any concern with that?
I mean, I'm kind of in the belief, and I kind of referenced it earlier. Like, we don't know. The NFL could all of a sudden just lay it down, like was brought up in the comment. Like, well, what happened to Zeke? Granted, that was a little bit of a different circumstance. There was things going on, and it came down to like when he filed paperwork or whatever. This, that, da. But Zeke suffered that suspension well into the season. It's possible that could happen for Judkins. I'm thinking it's more like, 60-40. It doesn't happen as opposed to it does. But, it's always going to be in the back of my mind. Like, the NFL doesn't like people who are being naughty. So and I understand that, you got it's a worldwide brand at this point and they got to have the right faces in front. And if you got somebody that's caught up in that kind of garbage, you got to, set a precedent, make an example.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Goyati, I'm going to leave this next question for you. So we have another question in the chat. Then we'll jump into our high-low ADP. So this is from Zenthic on YouTube. Pleasure having you on the show. So it's a 12-team PPR. I have Garrett Wilson, Teteroa, McMillan, Cortland Sutton, DJ Moore, Jacoby Myers. I'm looking to upgrade by trading two of these for a wide receiver one. Any trade ideas? So I guess my question would be, who are the two that you would be looking to target out of those to trade for like a better piece for like an elite wide receiver? So Goyati, we'll start with you. And then if anybody has any additional feedback, then we can jump in there.
I mean, if you can trade Sutton, who was the last guy? Jacoby Myers. If you can get rid of Sutton and Myers for a wide receiver one, I would do that in a heartbeat. I think Garrett Wilson's value is going to be super high just because it'll be hyper targeted. I would not want to get rid of Teteroa McMillan before I've had a chance to see him as the potential Malik Neighbors of 2025. And personally, just DJ Moore, special place in my heart coming from the Panthers. So, I think he's going to be a stud, probably close to another 100 catches. I wouldn't want to drop that. If it's dynasty, maybe you think about it. What is this, year 6, 7 for more? That would be the only reason I might try and dangle him while he has some value, but not in redraft.
Yeah, it's been interesting for the news coming out about DJ Moore. They've had him in the backfield. They have him lining up all of the over the offense, and they're experimenting with him a little bit. I think some people in the community are saying, hey, like they don't have a role for DJ Moore. I'm of the belief that they are all in on DJ Moore and they're trying to find ways to get him the ball. So I think from what I can see, like he's set up to have a good season. I think the player for me that I would be most interested to hear about. So we said that McMillan, we feel pretty strong about. Cortland Sutton obviously retains the wide receiver one role. I'd be curious to hear what y'all think about Garrett Wilson, just knowing that, yes, he is this wide receiver one. If you look at like the Matt Harmon reception perception, all of these kind of like advanced analytics, like they point to him being a great player. The contract that he just got points to him being a great player. But his buddy from Ohio State that will be throwing him the football this year he's not really the most accurate guy. Rick, I see your gears turning, so let me hear your thoughts on like what you feel about this.
Yeah, I'm actually all in on the idea of he being the person you're going to try to move. One, he's got the biggest name recognition, so he'll have the biggest trade value. Two, I'm not all in on Fields as a passing quarterback. I think he's going to be great with his legs, but is he going to be the passing quarterback you want? I don't know. And so I would, and I'm really big on Tet. Tetaroa, since I've been told it's not Tet. And
his
and
mom's
also,
gonna find you now.
I like Jacoby Myers and I like Sutton. So between the three of those guys, that would be a wide receiver group that I'd be going to war with.
For sure. Ben, anything you want to add to that?
I mean, I really like Garrett Wilson. I feel like Justin Fields, we haven't seen him do a whole lot as a passer, but we have seen him hyper target. We saw what he did with DJ Moore a couple years ago in Chicago. So there's that promise, that not expectation, but that hopefulness that he will again hyper target his number one guy, which you look at the Jets, it's got to be Garrett Wilson. So I'm high on Garrett Wilson. If we're going back to the whole trade thing, I would actually try and package DJ Moore. Hopefully, maybe you got a Chicago Bears fan in your roster. Maybe you got an old Panthers fan who really loves DJ Moore. Package him with one of those guys and see if you can get something to get a higher grade wide receiver. But Garrett Wilson, I would hold on to him for sure because I do expect I expect 100+ catches from him this year with the Jets offense from Fields.
Yeah, most definitely. It will be interesting to see because they don't have a lot of talent around Garrett Wilson. There's been a lot of talk about Mason Taylor potentially being the number 2 target option. Kind of slowed down a little bit with that ankle sprain, but we'll see what happens. So it'll be interesting to see, to say the least. Keeping with the chat, so we got Kanoa Built, Genty, Saquon, Etienne, PPR. Who would you take out of those three? Or I guess, how would you rank the three? We can make it a little bit more of an easy question, if you will. So anybody can jump in for that one.
So I'm guessing this is a redraft, not a dynasty, because dynasty would be obviously Genty. But and I actually kind of still would go Genty, Saquon. I like them all three, so if I could have them all three, I'll take them. And this PPR, it's definitely Etienne's going to be up there, but I just think that you're going to go with Genty out of the three.
Yeah. Anybody else that doesn't have Genty at 1? I personally would have Saquon. I know there's this whole 400 carries from last season plus. The thing that no one talks about, and I know it's a little bit different, Genty also did it too. He also had more than 400 carries last year. No one wants to talk about it.
But I get how old is Genty?
But how old is Saquon?
A lot less tread on those tires than there is with Saquon. So
the curse of 370, I think, is pretty real. We were at the Hall of Fame, and Eric Dickerson's display was pretty prominent. He's the last running back to counter the curse of 370. So that's a lot of years to go back to his years.
I just need to go to my video guy. Can we clip that for later? Also, I'm pretty much the video guy, so we document that 926. We're gonna need that footage, but that's crazy.
So let me throw a wrench in this, because when it came up, my first thought was just looking at my ranks. I've got Saquon 1. I've got Etienne 2. I've got Genty, a decent ways down there. Etienne is, the most explosive back in the NFL, in my opinion. Mike McDaniel is going to throw him 70, 80 balls. The only reason I think he doesn't take Saquon out is because Saquon has the best situation in football. He's also an amazing running back. So you put those two together, it's hard to beat. I don't think he really got hit that much last year. I saw him rubbing his leg on the sideline a little bit, kind of at the end of the season last year. And, it freaked me out. But then, we won the Super Bowl. So go Birds.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Well, I think we hit on all three running backs, so we probably helped the chat pretty well. But Again, I would
three
love
different
to have
answers
all
from
three
four
of
different
those.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, so
no,
pick your
I
favorite
like it.
analysts and then go from there. That's the best part about this stuff. So
You
I
bet.
think you consume information from different people, find the most trusting face, and then you kind of go from there. But I got to give some love to the Steagles. So yeah, I'm all in on the Saquon Barkley train. So Kanoa obviously liked the answer to the first question, but he returned, she returned, they returned for another one. So if you're punting on QB and tight end, who are you looking for to pick up later in the drafts? I know I just badmouthed him a little bit, but Justin Fields is a guy that I am very actively reaching on from the quarterback position. Getting him in the 8th round, I think, is like pretty ridiculous. If you look what he's done at a points per game basis when he's been healthy and been on the field, he's really performed quite well. The first 6 weeks that he had with the Steelers, he was QB6. If you look at 2023, he was QB5 for the first 5 weeks of the season. Then he was QB13 from weeks 11 to 18. 2020, I think 3 it was the last full season, or 2022 was the last full season he played. He was QB6. So for me, I was in a DNO draft, which is draft night out at the Fantasy Football Expo. I was on the clock round 8. People weren't really going with quarterbacks. They took not a lot. So I was on the board. You had Patrick Mahomes sitting there. You had Justin Fields. I took Justin Fields. I think he's going to provide that value. So we'll see what we got there. But guys, who are you liking as like a later round throw at quarterback, tight end?
I've got a lot of Trevor Lawrence, and you can get him pretty late. I also like Bryce Young. I think that he showed in the second half of the season, and I think he's got a great coach, and he's got some better tools around him, including Tetaroa. The other person I like is JJ McCarthy. He was hurt last year. But he's got, of course, so many weapons around him this year. So those would be the 3 I'd be shooting for later in the draft. Any later than that, and you're just hoping.
Sure.
I mean, I'm also a fan of Lawrence and McCarthy. Obviously, as a Vikings fan, I'm high on him as well. Another one I'll throw into the ring, Drake May. He's got a really sneaky good upside when it comes to the running game. 400 yards in what did he have? Like 13 games played, 13 games played last year. He could easily surpass 500, which makes a really nice floor for a quarterback. And you can get him right around there. You can get him sometimes after Fields, after Mahomes. And I have both of them above Mahomes in my personal rankings. So, I mean, I like Fields. I like Lawrence. I love
May's
Drake
got
May.
May has much better wide receivers this year with Diggs and they got the guy they got out of Washington State.
Kyle Williams.
Yeah. So I
got
actually
Hunter
think
Henry too.
And Hunter Henry is a solid tight end, which kind of leads us to the second question, or the second part of the question is, what are those late tight ends you're targeting if you miss out on the first 3 and then the second 2? The rest of them are all pretty much the same. So Hunter Henry is a good choice.
And I just looked that up from the stats guy, just filled me in. I'm also the stats guy. So Drake May, his that second year that he was at North Carolina, he had 184 rushing attempts. If you look at quarterbacks that have had at least 120 rushing attempts at some point in their collegiate career, if they start a full season in the NFL, they're essentially a lock to have a QB1 season at some point in their career. So Ben is absolutely right. He does have that upside there. In 2023, ran for 112 times. So that floor is sneaky. You don't necessarily think of him as that, but he could totally be that. So we've hit on the quarterback side. Go Yachty, what are you feeling from like the tight end perspective? Who are guys that we can throw some darts at a little bit later in the draft?
I've been intrigued with Tucker Kraft quite a bit. It seems like he's just totally pushed Luke Musgrave out of the way in Green Bay. I feel like Jordan Love trusts him. And to be fair, they don't have a lot of what I'll call reliable receiving weapons. Dontavian Wicks, is a great receiver, but he doesn't catch the ball. Everyone else seems like they're injured. But my guy, I'm going to go back to Zach Ertz. he had 8 games that averaged above 17 PPR points last season. That's a huge number just among tight ends, and he's basically free. In redraft, he might be on your waiver wire. So if you're going deep, if you have a deep bench, or maybe you have tight end premium, double tight end, I like Zach Ertz.
Very cool. All right, so keeping up with the chat, we haven't even gotten to the whole point of the show that I have y'all here for, but we appreciate the love in the chat. So if you have more questions, keep them coming. I can do the Bob Barker thing at any point, as much or as little as we need to. So next question coming from our friend Noah here. So start, bench, cut, Tataroa McMillan, Isaiah Pacheco, Cam Sutton. So keep one, bench one, cut one. Let's start, Ben. Like, what are you thinking about that one here?
That is an interesting question. Start, bench, cut, McMillan, Pacheco, Sutton. Ooh, I think oh boy, it's not the sexiest, but I'm gonna say start Sutton.
Okay.
Because we pretty much he's the guy in Denver. I mean, he's not gonna have like a 190-yard, 2-touchdown game or anything probably at any point, but 8-9 targets turns into 6-7 receptions, 90+ yards and a score. It's a great floor, really safe, especially if you're playing like guillotine. But then I guess between the other two, I guess right off the bat, I'd bench Pacheco and I'd cut Tataroa McMillan.
Wow.
And that's just because how many times we see a rookie come in. I mean, look at Justin Jefferson, a great example. Came in, did nothing his first 3 weeks, and then exploded. He just needed the time to catch up to speed. And that's what my decision is on cutting him in this situation, because maybe he starts out really, really slow. So I still got Pacheco on my bench, who's like the only not ancient, decent running back the Chiefs have. And they're going to be predicated on the run and the defense again, like they have been for the last couple of years. And it also sounds like Pacheco is looking more to form, looking better, looking healthier, looking dominant, like in practice and whatnot. But yeah, it's preseason, it's practice, but it's promising. And I just that's my basis. That's what I've got it.
Yeah. So I've got 2 updates for y'all. So the first one is that my boy Steve, he is on the what train for the Tataroa McMillan. He said he's a lock for 120 plus targets. The other thing is that there's actually live football going on right now. So we've got a preseason game in this great country. Chiefs Seahawks up 7-0. Your boy, the handcuff maybe of the year, Zach Charbonnet, punching one in
Nice.
in the first quarter. So keeping those stats at home. So go Yachty, Rick. Any differences to Ben's plan there?
Yeah, I like Sutton, so I thought that was a great call.
All right, so we checked that box. That's good.
But I'm cutting Pacheco. Again, I look at Tataroa as being like a Drake London type wide receiver. Big, can fight for the ball. He's got more speed than I think people associate with a guy who's 6'5". And I just think that he's going to be kind of like building along with the rest of the Panthers offense, and I think I'm looking forward to seeing him play for the next 10 years. I think Pacheco maybe has another year. They do have one young running back, Rashard Smith, more of a receiving type running back, but I think Pacheco's lifespan in Kansas City is going to be short. So especially if it's, and I guess I'm prefacing everything we're going to look a year or two down the road making these sort of decisions. I just think that you can't give up, that level of a wide receiver, especially for a running back who's probably getting closer and closer to the end of his career.
Sure.
Man, I can see it going like 100 different ways. I agree with y'all for the most part, but if it's like you mentioned, Ben, if it's week 1 in a guillotine, I'm plugging that running back in and I'm getting, 12 to 18 points if I can. I do like Pacheco. I think he can have a James Cookish type of year where relatively uneventful on the ground, but then he, just racks up touchdowns. I do like Pacheco, but yeah, if it's long term, I'm taking Tet first. I'm probably going to keep Sutton and then just cut Pacheco.
There we go. All right, so we'll keep it moving. I'm just going to hit Kevin's question here just because we already talked about it. I'll give him the nice little recap. So welcome to the show. We were talking about Garrett Wilson a little earlier, some things that we hit on from the notes. So he's going to be hyper-targeted. We have some concerns about whether or not Justin Fields is going to be able to hit him with those targets, but there's not a lot of other receiving options out there. So I think amongst the group, we're pretty bullish on Garrett Wilson. Another comment that we have here from Overcome. Welcome to the show. Thinking about taking Drake London at the 109. My friend, I will caution you, I'm all about getting your guys, but if I look across 3 different PPR formats, so if I look at Sleeper, if I look at, say, CBS, if I look at ESPN, Drake London, the earliest that he's going is on Sleeper. It's at the 205. So if you're taking him at the 109, you probably were going to be able to get him back at the 203. That being said, if you feel that strongly about Drake London, I know there's a lot of people pounding the drum based on what he did with Michael Penix as the hyper-targeted option in that offense. Go get him at the 109. You're going to feel a lot better if you have him and have a secondary player that you get at the 203, or if it's the 202, I guess, if you're in a 10-man, versus, hey, I didn't get London and I hate my life because he had this big year. So take him at the 109. The person that you're going to get at the flip side of that isn't going to be that dramatically different. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to say this too out loud, so all my analysts cover your ears. We're all guessing. So go get your guy, have fun with it, and you're not going to regret it if he hits it right. So let's go there.
Kind of curious on who he would be, who he's taking London over, though, because that's about the territory you're looking at guys like Brian Thomas Jr. and Nico Collins, and maybe even Puka Nacua with all the concerns about Stafford.
Maybe Garrett Wilson or Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah. Now I wouldn't put Garrett Wilson up in that category with those guys that I was listing, but sure. Yeah. I think he's in that next grouping down with Jackson Smith and Jigaboo and maybe AJ Brown, Lad McConkey, those sort of guys.
Yeah,
I agree. Waiting on the second round to get a guy like London is probably preferable because then you get that first guy that maybe it's that top maybe it's that end of the first tier, early second tier running back, or even if you want to reach for that Brock Bowers, you really want that positional advantage. But I think London definitely would be there for the second round.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So we got a couple more questions in the chat here, so we'll just keep rolling with it. But fan love from our boy Noah here, so thanks so much. Can roll with Sutton at the flex, so happy to help. We will be here every week, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. So come holler at it. This is typically a Q&A style like live show. So we've really hit the theme. All the stuff that I made the guys prep for has gone out the window. But you know what? That's life sometimes,
nothing. Oh.
Yeah. So we got Shadow is Wicked. Welcome to the show. One man keeper league question. Do I keep Kyron for an 8th, or do I keep Brock Bowers to lose a 10th? However, it is a tight end / wide receiver spot. So if we're thinking about the value there, knowing that it's not solely tight end, but really kind of like a half flex, does that change who you would keep between the two?
I would keep
some
Bowers.
Good questions coming through the chat today. I'm just saying.
Like Bowers was essentially the wide receiver 6 last season.
Yeah.
He's probably RB 10, 12 at this point. I do believe in Kyron, but Bowers is just, he's a powerhouse. He's obviously fresh and the coaching staff loves him. So I expect him to get 150 million catches again this year. So.
Yeah, so Brock Bowers, if I do some quick counting, sorry, I went to Pittsburgh Public School, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18th amongst kind of like flex position players. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And Kyron actually finished 5 spots ahead of him. So is that 2-round difference enough for you to make that happen? Now, something that people have pointed out a lot about Kyron as well as James Cook is that these are very touchdown driven numbers. there's always people that are screaming the touchdown regression. It's kind of the favorite thing for people to speak on. It's like, oh, like the touchdown regression, it's coming. But I mean, either one of those, I mean, you're in a great position to be in. So if y'all had to pick, we don't even have to give any analysis here. We'll start with Rick. Pick your guy out of the two. All I want is a name. So
Bowers.
Give me a name. Bowers. Go, Yachty.
Taking Bowers.
All right, Ben.
It's a straight. It's Bowers.
All right, we got the power of Bowers in the house tonight from the forum. So there you have it. Hope that's helpful for you. But yeah, Noah said he'll be back after week 1 here before that gets big. Let's go. I'll be here every week except for maybe week 1 because apparently the people that run the show all have kind of like this spring or I guess summer fall anniversary stuff going on. So I think we've hit all of the questions that we have in the chat, which means that I can actually ask y'all the things that we have. There is one more question that we'll hit when we get kind of like to the last couple minutes of the show, which is name one player you have to leave the draft with. But I know that I made y'all scour and prepare for all of this stuff. So the whole theme of this show, right, was kind of the Bob Barker Price is Right. Are we too high? Are we too low on players based on the ADP? So we had 8 players that we planned to talk about. As you can see at the 43-minute mark, we have hit 0 of them so far. So we are cruising. We've got about 17 minutes left. So we appreciate all the chat love. It's awesome. So if you're liking what you're hearing, like, subscribe, do all of that YouTube stuff that I'm required to talk about by law as a fantasy football analyst and YouTube specialist. But let's get back to the ball talk because no one wants to hear about those things. So first player that will hit, let's try to keep the brevity there if we can, fellas, because I'd like to get through at least a couple. But one of the players that I've really been thinking about a lot has been Marvin Harrison Jr., ADP 42. He was a player last year that was like a you can't miss prospect. Look at his dad. If you're not really happy with it, his dad might kind of pull the gun on you kind of thing. But we saw that Trey McBride kind of retained that role that he had for Arizona. So are we thinking that he takes a step forward this year, or is there enough concern about Kyren Williams that we're not ready necessarily to take him in that like 4th, 5th round kind of spot? So I'll leave that open for anybody who wants to take that.
I'll take Kyren over Marvin Harrison Jr. I think the issue that I have with MHJ is that he's attached to Kyler, whereas Kyren Williams is attached to Sean McVay's fast-paced, high-scoring offense.
Yeah. So you're saying that he's probably too high at the ADP 42 right now.
I mean, is he going ahead of Kyren in 42?
No, not ahead of Kyren. I think I might have said Kyren instead of Kyler.
Okay.
Pittsburgh Public Schools, I'm telling you, man. But it's just, are we high or low based on that ADP right now?
I mean, I think the ADP is actually kind of fair. I mean, it's definitely not as high as it was last season when people were drafting him at the 1-2 turn and whatnot. It's definitely better. And if Arizona and Kyler can get that offensive game working through the pass even a little bit better. I mean, you got McBride, sure, and then you got Harrison, and then you got 6 guys who could be serving me drive-through at Arby's next week. Who knows?
I like Michael Wilson.
and I like Greg George, but neither of them is the guy that's going to, have a perennial year at the wide receiver position anytime soon, probably. I mean, they could both be decent. They could both, they'll both get their targets and whatnot. But I just feel like if they can get that running game or if they can get that passing game going with James Conner holding down the fort behind the line and a little help from Trey Benson, I feel like there's the potential that there could be enough of a target share, enough passing for Harrison. So you got me talking about Wilson now. Harrison to come back from the disappointment we saw last year when it came to target and yardage.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I think it's definitely tough ones. I tried to pick people that weren't necessarily easy. So Rick, let's go to contestant number 2. So we have a player that was formerly, still is, as far as real life football, people would say is the best in the business. But for the last 2 years, the fantasy points haven't been coming in the buckets that we've seen as late. So our boy Patrick Mahomes, he's at QB6, ADP 54. Is this a steal for a safe floor, or is this a sucker's bet based off of like a name value?
So yeah, the last couple of years, Mahomes and I think the Kansas City offense relied heavily on the defense, and they didn't have to throw the ball like he did in the first couple of years of his career. I still think he's a great quarterback. I still think that he's got better tools this year than he certainly did last year. When we get clarity on the Rice, that will probably be a stronger statement. And of course, Hollywood Brown is hurt again. I would rather have and it's everything is dependent on the rules of the league that you're playing in. But I would rather have a running quarterback. Like Drake May being a great example. Certainly. Nix is above him as a quarterback. Yes. It's hard for me to criticize Patrick Mahomes. I think he's, as good of a quarterback as, maybe the league has had, certainly in the current days. But yeah, I think I would be looking at other potential quarterbacks at that ADP.
Very cool. Anybody on the we must take Patrick Mahomes, this is the year that he bounces back?
I mean, I think if you miss out on the first 5 QBs, getting Pat Mahomes in fifth, sixth round is like a miracle. You're like, oh, thank you for giving me the GOAT, right? I mean, there was a time where we were expecting 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, and now he has some weapons, hopefully, on the field with him this year that could, take us back to the heyday. I don't know that the play calling is the same as it was, but the ceiling is still there. So if they need it, he's got it. I wouldn't mind taking him. But yeah, I would rather have, Hurts, Lamar, Allen get those rushing touchdowns.
Sure. Yeah. And by weapons, you were referring to Taylor Swift, right?
I was.
Obviously, the big podcaster of the week, All right, cool. So let's keep this rolling then. So one of the more murkier, I don't think you need to say more when you add the ER at the end, but one of the murkier running back situations for fantasy right now is in Jacksonville. So we have somebody a couple years ago with Travis Etienne. He was a top 5 running back in the league. You have Tank Bigsby, who by definition of being named Tank, that automatically makes you very cool from like a running back perspective. And then they bring in a new rookie who also could have a role as well. So the question that I want to ask is particular to Travis Etienne, currently in ADP. Ben, I saw you shaking your head. Yes. This guy was once thought to be last year, like first, second round pick, maybe slide to the third a little bit. Now he's going in the back end of the 8th rounds. Is this like a buy low? We see like this new offense coming into fruition. He's going to be what we always thought he was going to be. Or are people just going to find out that, we have Tank Bigsby, we have Vishal Tootin. Maybe we don't really need to worry about Etienne anymore.
No, I think the ADP on Etienne is too high. It's far too high for me. I think that this, excuse me, I think that the running game is going to be fairly split between the 3 of them. Like I could see them all ending the season with like within 150 yards rushing of each other, like, 450, 500, 600 yards. And I've got Tank leading the way when it comes to carries, when it comes to yards, when it comes to rushing touchdowns. Now, Etienne, in a PPR setting, probably edges out the other 2 at least a little bit in like a full PPR setting. But I think it's going to be such a cluster that you're not going to have one guy that stands out way above the rest, but you can still get value from at least 2, if not all 3 of them. I like them all, but I like Bigsby the most.
Yeah, I have a funny story just because one of the hot topics in fantasy football right now is the lack of transparency when people talk about like the victory laps that they do. The last year I told you to do like X, Y, Z. So I'm in a keeper league where you get to keep 5 and it's based off of the draft spot. I traded Brees Hall kept in the 9th for Travis Etienne in the 14th, and I think everybody lost. It was just bad for everyone around. But you know what? You win some, you lose some. It is what it is. Speaking of the fan love, so Overcome saying, hey, thanks, dudes. Awesome content here. We had Shadow saying, thanks for the input. Much appreciated. So all of these guys here, all found throughout the industry doing great stuff. One thing that I do want to talk about real quick and just put a little bit of shine on it. We mentioned it at the show start. And I'm going to put you, Go Yachty, on the spot a little bit, is the Napkin League. So if you wouldn't mind telling the viewers about that, because it's something that I think is really great. And I think that viewers that are watching this tonight should be aware of as well.
Yeah, so the Napkin is a 100-league tournament. The backstory, I'll give you a quick version. Started for my neighbor's wife had cancer. She was looking for something to do because she couldn't get out of the house. Why not start a fantasy football league, and why not make it super fun and jack all the scoring up? So that's how it all kind of started. She recovered, and now we're on to kind of our next adventure. It's all supporting Mission 22, which helps veterans' mental health and their families. It's near and dear to my heart and my family and friends' hearts. Have a lot of friends who are former military or veterans of the wars. So all in all, I mean, it's a great time. We have a lot of we basically just celebrate the whole time. If you get the highest score in the tournament, make a custom trading card. At the end of the regular season, we have little silver trophies, and then we have our bad boy, the Stanley Napkin. It's shaped like a Nintendo Tecmo Bowl cartridge, but it's made of pure silver, so you don't want to drop it on your foot. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a big community. Everyone in that league is great to be with, and if you're not, I'll kick you out. But
Yeah,
everyone who's still in is awesome.
Yeah, so keep a lookout. If you're watching this not in the live setting, we'll have that in the description of the show. So definitely take a look at it. It is a slow draft, so if you're like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to have time, you will have the time for it. Only requires a $5 donation, and I think that donation is going to a really great cause. So, gentlemen, we are at the witching hour, if you will, from the forum. I'm running low on beer or other beverages that I may be consuming here at this moment. But the last thing that the people want to know, we're going to go back to the question that we kind of skipped over. We're also going to say hello to my buddy Grindberg. I miss him dearly, all the way coming in from Canada. So this show is international. But my guys, what I want to hear from you, we talked about it before. We'll start with Rick. Name one player you must leave your drafts with.
Oh gosh, one player. Gee, I would like to get. I tell you that the players I've been trying to get a lot of. People are starting to catch on to where I'm drafting them, and they're jumping ahead of me. I like Woody Marks, and I think the opportunity in Houston is going to be there for him. He came into the NFL as the leading running back in terms of receptions, and he's showing that he can actually perform somewhat in pass protection. But you got a running back room with Nixon, who is injured, and there's no word of when he's going to be coming back. And then you have an old man who
careful. He is very well esteemed by Mrs. Frick. You can hear stuff from my office. So just Frick. I'm just saying.
He's been very slow in practice. And so I think that Woody Marks is someone who's going to get a great opportunity. The Texans traded up to get him. And they also passed on a number of the bigger name running backs that were coming out of college. So I've been snapping him up in virtually all of the leagues that I've been drafting in so far. Although, as I mentioned, I think that he's getting more and more press, and I think people are starting to catch on to him. So that's one that I look for as a late draft pick.
There we go. I love it. I love the late round stuff because everybody's like, oh, yeah, you know what? I would love to have Jamar Chase. You're in the trenches.
Chase.
I love that. Yeah. So, yeah, right. So, all right. So, Go Yachty, what do you got for me? Who's that guy that you're not leaving without?
Oh man, I am so tempted to bring up Michael Pittman again, but I'm gonna go.
You already know. You already know how we feel about that.
Yeah, right. My brother. So yeah, I like Bill, aka Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I was drafting him every chance I had in best ball in the 20th round, and now he's going in the 16th. All I hear out of camp is good stuff about him. Every tape, that I'm able to find, it looks like he's breaking a big play. Maybe it's just, the two-hand touch they play in practice, but he missed last year. I think he just kind of got slept on, and he comes into a situation where you have an aging Austin Eckler, and then you have Brian Robinson, who's good but not great. So if he's great, I think he could take over that backfield with Jaden Daniels and just, be a powerhouse. So that's who I'm not leaving without.
All right, Ben, let's close it out. Who do you got? Who's your guy?
All right, I'm going to start with saying that I'm my first thought I'm not going to say because I don't want to crap on Rick's pick. I was going to say Dameon Pierce, but I'm going to change it. I'm going to pivot over to a guy that I love even more. Brenton Strange, tight end from the Jaguars.
Man, you guys are like 10 round plus. I mean, I'm going to change my answer now.
Absolutely. Who's there to throw to anymore? Sure, they got Brian Thomas, but after that, maybe Travis Etienne's the second guy. Maybe it's this guy. Maybe no, it's Brenton Strange. He showed us in the last few weeks of the season he has the ability to be targeted 8, 9, 10 times and bring in those catches and make yards. Is he going to have 10 catches for 150 yards? No, but if he has 10 catches, he's probably got 80 yards, 90 yards. And he scores a touchdown. I mean, I've got him. He's my tight end 5 right now in projections coming into the season. He's my guy. I've got him all over the place. The only place I don't have him is where my wife has been sniping me.
Yeah, that's the tough part. She knows all the stats. She knows all your stuff. So that's
she hears everything I say. Like, oh, I remember that name. Oh, I remember that name. That's why I didn't get Amon-Ra St. Brown anywhere last year.
Yeah, the guy for me, I'll be very brief here because I've talked about it quite a bit. But the person that I would talk about is like a 3rd or 4th round, which feels like very inappropriate based on the names that y'all have dropped. But like 8th, 9th round, someone that I've drafted in every draft that I've done so far this year has been Stephon Diggs. They don't really have a lot of other passing options in the Patriots room. So I think that, yes, there is the injury concern, but I do feel pretty good about Drake May. So therefore, I feel pretty good about the number 1 receiving option for Drake May. So that's who I'm looking at as a guy. The other 2 would be Jacoby Myers and Alvin Kamara. I've been taking them everywhere that I could. I've done videos about them. I've talked about them ad nauseum, so we won't save that here. But my friends, we are coming up on the hour. My favorite part about being a part of this show every week is that we just get to have so many different ball knowers in the presence of me, and it makes me better at what I do. And also for the people that watch the show, like, make sure that you're tapping in every week to see what these people are doing, and make sure you're tapping into the other stuff that they're doing because Ben, Goyati, Rick, all fantastic resources in the fantasy community. So we're going to start with Ben, go around the horn. Where can people find your content, whether it's on Twitter, on a particular website? Where can they find your stuff?
All right. Well, on Twitter, you can find me at FFRabbitDad. I'll spit out something here and there. I love guillotine content. I will be doing again for the, I think, 6th or 7th year in a row. I do a weekly grab bag article for FantasySharks.com. But other than that, a lot of my stuff is just on Twitter right now. I have been working with the FF Faceoff for a few years. Hopefully get back into doing some stuff with them again. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yeah. And before you go, Yachty, I do want to say, in case you saw the news this week from Sleeper, they just added guillotine as a game mode on Sleeper. So if you have questions on that, Ben is a fantastic resource. I didn't even play guillotine last year, and I was like, oh, man, like, this is what I would do. Yes, like, I'm all about that action. But, Goyati, where can they find you, my friend?
Yeah, I am FF Knowledge, spelled Nollij, because that's cool, on the Twitter machine. I'm also at Goyati on Sleeper, where you can find me pretty much all the time. And if you want to find my writing, I'm on FSAN with you, Joe.
All right, Rick, bring it home.
Yes. on the Twitter machine, I'm R. Bruce Wallace. I'm also R. Bruce Wallace on Blue Sky. And I'm a part of the sports affiliation doing a show Thursday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern with Greg Kellogg. And it's called the Thursday Checkdown, where we talk fantasy football and life.
There you go. All that stuff, very important. I'm here every week, so y'all know where to find me. Also do a Wednesday show with my boy Drew Hannis with the Around the 412 Fantasy Show. But that's going to wrap it up for us this week from the forum. Like I said, find us every Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. We're here to get the questions. We're here to get the vibes. We're ultimately here to have a good time and talk ball. So until next week, my friends, this is Joe Frick. This is my awesome crew, and we will see you until next time. All right, so take care.
We are here. We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com.